Abhijeet Kini from Kini Studios. Have a seat, buddy. Now our next guest of the evening is Anand Radhakrishnan. Come over to the stage. Next, I would like to call Saahil from Cheeseburger Comics. Okay, the final judge of this panel discussion is Aniceto Pereira from Indian Comics Association. Can we have him here, please? And finally, the moderator of this evening. Please put your hands together for Mojo Rojo, Rohan Joshi. Over to you, Rohan.
Hi guys, how's it going? First of all, very excited to be here. I have many questions. Mostly as I was telling them, I didn't get a chance to talk to you earlier. My sort of experience, and again, I don't know. So I actually show of hands with our audience. How many people here sort of intersection with the world of comics is more from the consumption perspective than the creation perspective? And how many people here sort of engage with the visual arts as creators here? Okay, fantastic. So the thing is, I know you talked about your personal journeys and all of that, but what I wanted to understand is, what is the Indian comic industry? If you had to just sort of sketch it out as a 5-mark answer. Honestly, like just as an industry, right, what is the Indian comic industry? Like from that perspective.
Why do you start?
I think there was no industry as such till about a decade and a half ago. Everyone was doing their own stuff. There were publishers, the good old ones which were around. But I think it's the events that started, like much like this one, there's even the Comic Con, Indie Comics Fest. There's so many of these which actually got people more curious to see what creators are doing, got them all together. And that's why I think the new people also entered the scene, which is where the indie met the mainstream. So now you have two very specific streams. And I think in that we have built a community of sorts. I won't call it an industry as such, but there's a big following and a big network of people, much like the people here. And of course, the database of readers has also increased. Since we have more readers, we have the guts and the gumption to come up with more stuff over the last few years. So I think that's how it's built up. Still pretty fresh, still pretty new, but I think it's on its way up.
I agree. I agree with what Abhishek's saying. The community per se is still small, but I've noticed that a lot of independent creators are also coming up. Like Abhishek mentioned, there are a bunch of there are a bunch of different events coming up. There's Indie Comics Fest coming up in a few days. The Comic Con, of course. And Bombay Zine Festival is coming up around this month as well. So I know a lot of independent creators making zines as well, which is interesting because you sell the comic directly to an audience from either a website or Instagram or social media, which is again a great tool. So instead of that format of you creating work for a publisher, you're selling stories directly to an audience, and I think that's a pretty powerful tool that we have right now. Since we have the creators and we have the audiences, and we don't have the middleman at this point, this is a pretty nice spot to be completely honest. One more thing it works in, since we don't have the middleman, is we don't get censored. Like film gets censored at this point, like TV serials get censored at this point, like Amazon, Netflix get censored at this point. Comic creators are not getting censored, and that's really powerful. So we are in a pretty good spot right now. You can say subversive stuff, you can say bold things, you can say things related to adults. And it's okay because no one's going to come at you right now. Not for the next 10 years. No, they're not going to come at you. उसके बाद ज़्यादा popular हो गया तो
Sweet spot.
हाँ, तो
Sweet spot.
you can say weird shit now. So it's a good spot, I would say.
So I belong from the north of India, and when we heard about comics, we heard about only few comics. Chacha Chaudhary, Raj Comics. So that was the scene. Like DC and Marvel were out of the scene because they were not available in India. So as I see now, as I become a publisher, just a small one, so I see that the scene has changed a lot. We have got the accessibility to artists as well, because India में अच्छे artists मिलने बहुत मुश्किल है, because everyone is either working for DC, they're either working for Marvel, and Dark Horse Comics. So we have to find the artist and we have to make the comics, and we also have to keep a standard. So as an industry, I'll not say it's an industry yet, but we still have flourished in after COVID, I must say. After COVID, the number of sales have gone up. People have started reading, and I think we see that we can draw or write anything now. So that censor thing has just gone down.
Hi. My opinion is that the industry or the future industry is largely fragmented. It's not a negative expression. It's I'll actually show you the books. But basically, whatever you want to read, and everyone's got a particular book, genre, idea, or story that they want to read, you can find it in comics. I think maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was not possible. Now it's a lot easier. You get access to a lot of books, either scans online, scanlations online, which are translations from Japanese or French into English. So you have access to books. They may not necessarily be physical. They may also just be like, what do you call it, scan. But I think for an audience in India, the biggest problem is awareness. So you may not know that that book exists. And one of the ways in which you figure it out is Amazon recommendations, review sites, Goodreads, just your friend recommending a book, or you go to a comic fest, someone's reading it. For me, that's like the future, which is that everyone's going to have options, and they'll have a lot of options. As a simple example, because I actually bought this for a friend's daughter, just showed her. These are just like books about cats. Yeah, you just hold it up. It's like, all these are available on Amazon. You can just go there and get it. It's not a big deal. It's like publicly available. It's easily accessible. If you look at one recommendation, you'll find the other recommendation. Then the internet gives you that freedom to basically just go down a, what do you call it, hole, a rabbit hole, and like focus on the things you like. Versus when we were growing up, all that we had was like Tinkle, and we did have now DC in Bombay, but like it was just a limited expression of what you could see. So you didn't know how big the world was, and now it's a lot bigger.
See you all pretending like Archie comics didn't exist. I see you. Streets remember. Jughead Jones Double Digest. But okay, fragmented community. But that's at the sense that I get overall, though, that it is still possible to, and this is important, like while artistic expression is a thing, I feel like everybody here is enough of an adult to know that we've got to pay the bills also, right? So with that sort of in mind, one is, what are the opportunities available to you? If you want to work anywhere in the comic sort of business or take a job in it, aside from obviously being an illustrator and being a writer, what are the other opportunities available to you? And also, what are the commercial applications of that talent to keep the lights on at home while you're also pursuing your passion, so to speak? Because a lot of people don't, I think, understand that a lot in the creative field, all creative fields, there's the work you do to do your thing and the work you do to, so what are those opportunities like in the visual arts right now?
Should I? So after a while you find yourself working more on commission work. You don't have much time to work on your own IPs. That's something I face quite often. My Angry Maushi comic series is still stuck. I need to work on more of these. But like you said, what brings the food on the table is the commission work. So storyboards for ad agencies, illustrations for ads, mascot designs, logo designs, animation itself is a big avenue for art. So I think you need to look out for opportunities. You can't be stuck saying, I'm only going to be doing comics. You need to keep the options open, because, and also multiple income stream, all pertaining to art. So you can take workshops, you can take classes, whatever it is, online courses. You need to open up, you need to expand your horizons. Only then will you be able to convert talent into a money-making option, I feel.
I personally find that that part of my career is taken care of by the American comic book industry, and it works because it's in the US. These publishers in the US especially pay obviously much bigger wage rate So although they may not be creatively satisfying, I use that to kind of feed into my own personal projects, and so far that's kind of worked. So I every month I'll do like 20 days of say like a work that pays me by paycheck, and the rest of the 10 days then I can get to focus on my own stuff. So I think that I still get to work in comics, but at the same time then money is coming from outside, and then I get to kind of channel that into my own stuff. So yeah.
So if you're only making comics, you are not earning money. You have to wait for 2 years, 3 years to get the revenues. The prints are so expensive, and then there's marketing, and then there's distribution, and then you have to go to the bookstores who give you like 50 to 60% off on the MRP. So if you're looking to make a comic book, I think you should be looking at an IP. So it's an IP for you. So you sell the IP, you take the money. Even if you don't want to take the money, take the percentage. Give it for animation. That is what I am trying to do. That is what we are almost achieving. That we are giving it for animation. There are many. The animation scene in India is also not that cool because people are not paid enough, to be frank. So generally we have got pre-production and post-production. The animation part is done from abroad. So if you are making a comic, please think of it as an IP as well, because that what will give you a lot of money and might sustain you in the comic industry as well.
I come to comics from a different background. For me, comics I enjoy the most are comics where comics is a form of self-expression. So there's something cathartic about it, there's something useful about it. I think that value cannot be understated. So even if you don't make a living out of it, for a lot of people, just making comics is itself it's an anxiolytic. It's basically something which gives them joy. So as a future in comics, they're going to continue making comics. They've been comics for 50 years. A lot of these books actually started off as just one-offs, and then they went into something bigger. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I can't really give suggestions on how to make a living in comics, but I can tell you that making comics, the act itself is like quite a thing in itself, like a beast by itself, a creature by itself. And I wouldn't discount it as something which you should do necessarily for a living, just even something which you can do in your spare time or as a hobby.
Okay, fantastic. You mentioned distribution, so that's something that I wanted to come to. Where do I find, like, what are your storefronts? Where do I find Indian comics easily accessible? What do you wish you could have sort of in terms of storefront access? Because I think that's like one sort of big, like, I'll be honest, as a sort of noob consumer, it is only at events like this that I feel like I interact with the Indian comic scene. So what are the sort of distribution opportunities?
So maybe I'll distinguish it. So I don't know if I see myself as a consumer. I see myself as a reader. So for me to read, I actively work towards finding things that I enjoy. I mean, like, if I enjoy a particular book, I'll try and find everything about that genre, that author, anyone doing any other work in that specific space. But it requires work.
Right.
It's more that for a reader, a comic reader, or any reader, you're putting effort in a particular direction to basically like gain that enjoyment. So whether the distribution space exists or not becomes slightly irrelevant, because you will simply just do whatever it takes to basically acquire that, whether it's from second-hand stores or basically the authors directly, or through festivals that is when you make friends and you trade comics. In fact, Jude, you should have a swap meet for comics. It just makes a lot of sense with the vinyl stuff that you guys do. Yeah.
So distribution, like for me, it's very important because I want my book, I want eyeballs on my book. I want people to talk about it. I want people to at least turn the pages and see, oh, okay. At least they read the blurb and they just see, okay, I want to buy it and not. That is a different opinion. But getting eyeballs on a product is totally equivalent to that. Okay, I've achieved something. मतलब बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आपकी किताब दिखे सब जगह.
That's what, to sort of clarify the question based on your answer, versus an enthusiast who will consciously make the attempt to seek it out. How do you reach out to sort of, how do you convert the casuals, or at least sort of get a handout in front of them?
To the distributors, yes?
Yeah, to just to casual, like how do you get a casual audience to interact with it if they're not, say, on the enthusiast path that he's on, they're not searching it out? How do you put it in front of people?
So, putting it in front of people is having it in a bookstore, in a good shelf, and in one of the bestseller shelf, and that can only happen if it is in the other shelf. So, udhar se udhar ki journey, एक shelf से दूसरी shelf की journey is what will give eyeballs to your book. And I think we know कुछ bookstores हैं जो सब जानते हैं. That is crossword. Everyone knows about crossword. Who all think कि यार मेरी book crossword में होनी चाहिए. But everyone wants कि यार I want my book in the crossword. But for an author, I'm just saying, I'm talking about an author, not for an enthusiast. But I think a bookstore plays a very important role. Online stores, yeah, you can sponsor a post and you can, it's just a word of mouth. But a bookstore, having a book, physical book in a bookstore, it's totally something very different that an author and a reader would love to see.
Okay.
So far, I've only seen that Amazon seems to be doing the most business when it comes to distribution of comics. And I agree with everyone here. Distribution, especially in terms of storefronts, is a major issue. And we need more bookstores, we need more strands, more crosswords, etc. And my personal experience has been that my first book, Graffiti Rohan, came out in the US, and it's about Bombay. And it's kind of miserable that it's not available in Bombay. It's fucking horrible. So I don't know how to fix it. Maybe as the readership grows, as the industry kind of grows, we have more storefronts, more distribution centers, more stocking options. I don't know how to pin it on one thing, but I think it's a whole system, and I think distribution will be like one of those things that just falls in place once you have a whole system in place, right?
For that, I'll say a big shout out to Hamza. Where is Hamza?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for comic book store, I don't think this event would be here. We need more people to be open to selling at places like these, which are the only legit comic stores. As far as I'm concerned, we look at comic book store, we look at online as well, because KiniStudios.com is predominantly an online store. We also merchandise our comics, so we need a lot of our online customers to come and buy our comics as well. So our distribution that way is, it's quite limited when you look at the big wigs, right? But still we consider ourselves pretty indie when it comes to comics, and these are the kind of things that Robert Crumb used to sell his comics on baby carriages, right? And we know who Robert Crumb is. I hope everyone knows who he is. There are distribution ways for indies, and I think the more we reach out and use the internet, I feel today the internet is a big tool. Considering that Amazon does so well, we are all connected and wired. Book sales mostly are online, and it's a sad reality that many bookshops are shutting down because of this. But we have nerd places like comic book store. You know that you're going to get the latest comics, Indian as well as international, right there. So these are the things that we look out for. But I think focus is both on like an online thing and places like comic book store.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask each of you basically to sort of just cast a net over the audience with I need two recommendations from each of you. One is a gateway drug comic. So an easily accessible comic, that would be a great gateway drug for readers. And two is an out there sort of comic that really shows how far the medium can go.
Can we talk about our own stuff?
Why not? Why not?
Bombay Rhymes and Angry Mousy. To be a little more grounded, I think as Indians around here, we need to be more acquainted with the titles that Amar Chitrakatha has, like Raj Comics has, Chacha Chaudhary. We've all heard. They're still there. I'm part of Tinkle. We're still doing a lot of good stuff, and I would want more people to come check it out. So if it's a comic that I really need to recommend for someone, it can be any of the new Tinkle issues. Not just because I draw for them. It's really a special thing. And internationally, if you're looking at any Mad magazine, if I was to pick one, Sergio Aragonés or Don Martin, any of these two artists, pick a book. You'll find these on Amazon. Pick a book. Trust me. Humor redefined. These would be my recommendations. Gru, who said Gru?
Gru.
Yes, thank you.
If anyone enjoys horror as much as I do, I would really recommend anything by Junji Ito, the mangaka. And I recently went into like a Junji Ito binge, and I'm yet to get out of it. And some of these ideas are totally out there, like insane. And the other side of the spectrum is, I would say, Adrian Domine's Optic Nerve. One of that series is like a lot of, it's a good experience to read through. It's a bunch of anthologies of short stories basically. Domine does a really good job of telling stories where nothing happens, like where there's no gigantic event, but then life just goes on. And I think that's a really cool kind of two books to kind of put together and study the process.
In India, like we have formed an IC, which is Indian Comic Association. We have got around 18 publishers. So there are many new publishers who have come up with very good stuff, including me. Just to be honest, I'll just say that you can go and check it out over there. But I'll definitely say that read Tinkle, Chacha Chaudhary kabhi bhi, anytime you can go and just read it. Raka is the greatest villain that we all know. So you can go ahead and read that, and there are new publishers also coming up, so you can just go and check out their book. Just check it out, don't buy, just read few pages and you'll come to know how they're going. And if you're talking about an international, I'll say Guru.
Guru?
Yep, definitely please, go for Guru.
Now, weirdly, it's just got released. It's What's Michael by Makoto Kobayashi. It's the Japanese version of Garfield. It's been just released by Dark Horse Press in 2 fat volumes called the Fat Cat volumes. It's damn funny. It's pure slapstick. Whoever I give this to just ends up laughing and then they have to go to the toilet. I have no idea why. It's yeah.
Oddly specific reaction.
Very specific reaction.
Oddly specific reaction.
This other book, the book which I think a lot of people should read, is something I grew up with. It's a book called Castle Waiting by Linda Medley. It's all those fairy tales you read when you were a kid, but they're all in this one universe. And it's a pretty chilled out book. There's no drama in it. It's just day-to-day life at this place called Castle Waiting. And I followed it for almost 30 years. And I'm still following it. She's just getting the few new volumes out. It's also available on Amazon. Yeah.
Fantastic. I would now like to open it up to the audience for any questions. Anybody in the audience, any questions? Like related to comics ideally, and like not the PAN card details. Like.
So, the question that I have to both of you, very senior people in the industry, the Bollywood industry has found its own place in the universe of film. They have their own style, they're irreverently Indian and original, right? And sitting on it's probably one of the largest subcultures in the world today, Bollywood industry, the Hindi film industry. Do you foresee a time where Indian comics will also create their own following, their own style, their own pace, given the fact that they're sitting on this massive culture? Do you see us ever moving in that direction? Is it already happening? Is there something that we can collectively work towards?
I think we do have a chance to do that. We have our own, with characters with names like Supandi, Shikari, Shambhu. These are all top recall characters. But the onus also remains with the next breed of artists. Don't draw in the manga style always. That way, our identity is not going to go anywhere north with it. We are just going to be aping mangakas. I know you're all big fans. I know a lot of people will hate me for saying this. But half the portfolios I see, I do happen to teach at a couple of places as well for comics. I have my students right there. But half of the portfolios I see from many of them have very manga-like art. Where does that talk about Indian styles or Indian characters? So my advice is that. But apart from that, I think we have a good chance to do that.
I just fear that Indian production houses have this infatuation for mythology, and all of our stories tend to gravitate towards that. I wish we could get over it and produce contemporary content. And we have so many stories to tell. And I feel like once we make that transition, things will start to really blossom.
So if you see the animation viewership in India is only 30% because they are kids. Because we don't produce anything, कोई भी flagship का ऐसा कोई content नहीं है जो हम लोग देखें और बोले I want to see this. So this is the biggest problem. We need to, the production houses are trying, they are trying to have a flagship where they can create content. But still we need to support that content when it comes out. Mythology, definitely. Like it's enough of it. So I think we are going towards that phase where we will see animation for everyone, not just for the kids, because that is what sells in India. But when that gap increases from 30 to 70, people will be running to us because we got so much content.
I'll approach this from a bit of this thing. So, we run a comic fest and we collect comics from everyone who presents at the fest. So if we're selling a comics at the fest, we take one copy for the archive. We have almost 1,000 copies of different books from 2017 to 2019, and then we resumed again in 2022. So over 27 festivals, we've accumulated almost 1,000 different books. It's all, the range is from extremely good to like, well, okay. But in those stories, you can actually see like the beginnings of something, which if those people continue in that same way, 5-10 years down the line, you're going to have like something which is huge, like at the stage where you'll have like maybe an international hit, right? And that's, for me, that's where the evolution is happening, where it doesn't matter what other people think about Indian comics, it's basically what we think about them ourselves and how we produce them and how we conduct ourselves without any scrutiny from any outsiders or even from within the community telling us what kind of comic works. Because from what I've seen, it's the people making these comics are making comics for their own pleasure, for their own self, and what's working is clearly basically not according to anyone else's standard. It's according to their standard, and I'm the one reading it because I have to archive everything and make notes on themes of the comics, the sizes, this thing. So it's a wealth of data that I have access to, but I can tell you that 5-10 years from now, you're going to see like a couple of hits coming out, easily international hits coming out of the Indian comic community.
Just one thing to add. Also, if we study the Japanese manga and anime industries, because they are adjacent industries and they work hand in hand, like if you notice so many of these properties. And if we have a relationship like that in India, where comics works hand in hand with the animation industry, I feel like those two industries will kind of push each other and grow. And I feel like some of these ideas, if you translate some of these ideas, like for example Attack on Titan, if you translate that to life, it doesn't work. So those ideas needs an animation, those ideas needs a comics. And we need, India mein agar wo cheez push ho, that would be like ideal.
Any more questions? Anybody?
Well, I want to again talk about the IP angle that you were saying that IP is so important to have. But how does an artist actually get the IP? Like, what do you tell the publisher that, because with big publishers, if you don't give them the IP, they're not going to distribute your book, they're not going to really, I mean, you won't get the contract. And with big distribution, I can guarantee that, okay, my books are definitely going to be at Crossword, it's definitely going to be in all these top bookstores, but I have to kind of give away that part as a young, like a first time comic artist.
So I'll tell you my personal experience. When I wrote Professor Ashwatthama, I was just doing it with the Diamond Comics. So I started with Diamond Comics. I knew nothing about publishing and anything, and I met this gentleman, the owner of Diamond Comics. He told me there's no money in comics. Don't do it. You know, if it is your first choice, it is the only thing that you're doing, don't do it. Do something else with that. But if you're doing it for fun, please go ahead and do it. And this will be the cost of everything. What I did is, I did not listen to him. I listened to the good things he told me. And what I did, I took out 10 prints from the printer, good prints, and I did a mail. There's a Facebook group of so many comic readers in India. Lot of them, there are a lot of them. So I gave 10 copies to each of them, and one of them did reach Westland.
So Westland called me back. I was getting married. So that was the day they called me up and said, "Ki, we would like to, the right order, their baby company, they said, we would like to publish your comic book." I thought, okay, I was not in the right zone at that point of time. So I said, okay, what are you offering me? So they said, what we do is we have read the story, we love the story, we like the illustrations, we might be creatively involved in it in the later stages, but this copy we are taking it from you, we're giving you a contract for 4 years, and we'll do publishing and printing, and we'll take 20% of the IP from you. So that is how you can do a deal with them. Don't give them everything. You don't have to. If there are so many publishers over there, they're looking for good content. Like in the Society of Kolkata, I've got few Kolkata artist friends over there. What we do is we make anthologies together. All of us, like there are 7 writers, 7 artists, and then we pitch it to the publishers. So, 1 साल लग जाएगा, कोई problem नहीं है. आप 2 भी लगा लो. But when you get the right deal, just go for it. And there is no guarantee, of course, that you will see your book in crossword because there is a. But if your book is really good, you will see it in the crossword. So you make a deal. Don't let them make a deal.
I wonder what kind of blueprint Penguin has when it comes to IP. Does it do this everyone or?
Yeah, we got 7%.
Achha.
It was 7% का contract where we tried to fight it.
Okay.
They give us 50.
Right.
And 7% split in 2 people. I got 3.5, my co-author got 3.
Right.
And what are we like? I'm in the same boat. Comics में ना वो पैसे तो है नहीं. मेरे को कोई पैसे नहीं.
But I think the next time you do a deal, don't do it. Just say it, because you know whenever you are afraid to jump, that is when you jump. And don't do it. Yeah. So.
But I've already now the second contract is already signed with the same.
So I wish you are one of the best sellers, so that you know Google calls you and say that okay, I'm giving you this much quarterly, and I think that is what. But the next book that you go on with, just don't go. If you don't push, just don't go. You don't like you have this thing. I've got 30. I want to take 30. Otherwise, it's okay. Someone else will take it.
Especially since Penguin usually publishes prose, right? So I don't know what their system is prose writers, and I hope it's not different for comics writers. That'll be horrible. Because comics, Image for example has a pretty clear deal. कि इतना percent ही लेते हैं, and the rest of it goes to the creator. So I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is with Penguin.
They have Sarna Banerjee also.
Right. So they have the same
I'm
deal.
sure
with
he
him?
must be getting it.
Yeah.
What do you think about apps like Webtoon for Indian comic artists and storytellers?
I'm not a fan. I'm more of the traditional way of reading comics, but that's just me. There's a lot of readers out there. Me personally, I've not listed anything, I've not put anything up, and I don't even read it. But that's just me.
Does Webtoons have a paywall? Does it have a paywall? Does Webtoons have a paywall?
Webtoon, some stuff is paywalled, but some stuff is free.
Okay.
But there's a lot of international creators on Webtoons
Right.
doing non-manga styles as well. So I was just wondering, as a way to break in as an indie Indian artist, if you all had any experience.
I don't use it.
We only do print. Yeah.
Back when Watchmen first made its appearance in the world scene, many comic book artists almost felt tempted to break their brushes. Has there ever been a moment in your respective moments where there's that one label, that one cover, and you went, shit man, I could have done that. That's so awesome.
Way too many times.
Way too many times. It's like,
Any of the Mad parodies, any Mad, I'm so into Mad that I would take any example from there. Their parodies are so spot on. The Batman one, I remember one with Michael Keaton from back then. He's had a haircut, and the barber is Alfred Newman, and he's taken out the cowl, but his hair is also standing like the bat ears. It sounds lame when I'm explaining it. It's damn funny when you see it. That cover for me was so amazing. But of course, I mean,
I remember my mind being blown when I was revisited Meta Barons by Gimenez. So one of my friends saw his wedding day. We went on the terrace with a couple of beers and we sat and looked at his hardcover copy of that book, and both of us were like, holy hell, like, on his wedding, that is insane.
So do
question makes us feel weird.
So, just to address one thing, a lot of times we read comics to scans or scanlations, which means someone puts it out every week, right? And then you've been following something for donkey's years. Like I read Lucifer from its inception to its end, but I didn't get that opportunity with Sandman because.
Diamond one, right?
Yeah, no, the Mike Carey one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I read Lucifer, I read Invincible from the start to the end. I mean, if you're reading something as an ongoing thing, it stays with you as you're growing up, as you're changing, and you still want to know how it ends. I don't know, every single book that I've read, I've been following from start to finish from the age of like 15. Yeah, so.
What about the piracy? People still do it for manga, for large, when Indian comics.
What is that?
Piracy.
Oh, I buy a lot of books, man. So it's like, I mean, I still read a lot of books online, but almost everything I read is like inaccessible to me otherwise.
So piracy is not even a good word, please.
I've done my own share of it, like Ares, LimeWire, all of those. P2P though, I've made all of my comics on P2P, so I can't complain.
Yep. When am I going to get the latest issue of Batman right at your doorstep? Until like comic stores came around. Yeah, it's always going to be.
I mean, we feel bad, but at the same time we don't have an option to get the latest one. And like he said, now we know. But I am a comics collector myself, so like he said, if we like a book, we buy it. So I think there is that. We've all done our share of piracy when it's music, when it's torrents, all of you.
Movies too, don't forget movies.
Movies,
Just
so games.
okay. The question was not list all the forms of piracy you have committed in your life. There was no reason for you to keep adding different media types. Like, before anybody incriminates themselves, can we please have either another question or yes?
Like to know the websites.
Yeah. Please stop speaking, sir. I have been in court enough. Yes.
So I would like to come back to the point Anand mentioned about the comic and animation industry going in tandem. So one of the reasons it works in Japan with anime and manga is because they also have a thriving merch industry. Which apart from the comic and manga itself supports the whole cycle very efficiently. Now for an Indian audience which on average isn't very cash rich, how do you think the translation will work?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question. I just can't think of how to deal with that. Because
Can you tell me if there's anything which you've read in the last 10 years that you think would be great as an animation and merchandise? Huh? No, Indian, anything Indian. Yeah. I'm not trying to catch you out, I'm just asking it as a genuine question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a whole comic.
Just a comic, something that is a comic and has not been made into an animation much.
So let's talk about World War III.
What?
World War III. Sort of indie comics.
Huh?
You talking about Anadi's WW3?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's no, he might have loved it. It's a good story about how the things are right now and what is the World War III. So
No, Michael. No, Michael.
So, but if
Save you. Sorry.
please. But when he asked you the question, it should have just come to your mind like this.
Okay, let's give a better example. I follow a few webtoon artists, right? Brown paperback comics. There's one on Instagram. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
He has a great merchandising plan with his character. He has a repetitive character that he puts in. He has a recurring character he puts in every story.
Yeah.
And he makes keychains out of them and mugs out of them.
But why not an animation?
No.
Would it suit an animation?
Yeah, it would suit that.
Okay, so I mean, but why is it not come into animation?
That I think he'll be able to answer.
Why are we micromanaging his career? That's what I want to know.
I mean, largely, if you think about it, I can't think of anything suitable which suits all these layers. It's going to make great little action figurines. It's going to make something people want to paint like Gundam. I mean, I can't think of anything. So.
Have it on a t-shirt.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have it on a t-shirt. Ox forever. Sorry.
Right. Next question. Sorry, it seems to be one of those problems that's not been cracked yet. I guess. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Industry-wide issue, no worries. We got 5 minutes, we can figure it out. Well, once we shut down the piracy website listing, it was over for us. It was never going to recover. So a round of applause for all these wonderful creators, and please do one self-promotion. Go for it. Of whatever.
Of whatever?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Cool. Good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
I'll just say that give chance to Indian comic industry. Like read comics, buy comics, not the sites. Yeah, Indian comic industry is a wide industry, and also read Professor Ashwatthama from Cheeseburger Comics. Yes, thank you.
I'm on Instagram as Anand RK, and that's it. I don't have anything else to say.
KiniStudios.com. Look out for Angry Maushi wherever you can. The good part is, we were talking about piracy and all that, but I'm still stuck on it. I noticed one of my Angry Maushi comics at a Raddiwala, the issue was hanging there at the, so I was like,
Nice.
I have arrived. I used to pick up a lot of my comics from Raddi.
Coverless or with a cover?
With cover. Maybe signed also by me, I don't know. The person was like, hated my work so much, went back to the Raddiwala. But life came full circle that day.
I want to plug a friend's book. It's The People of the Indus by Nikhil Gulati. It's a really interesting, it's a great book. He started it off with one chapter at a time, and then during lockdown he put the whole thing together, and it's now published on Amazon. People of the Indus. Yeah, it's a great book. It's like.
We met him at Indie Comics.
He's been a regular, and every time he comes to the fest, he brings one more chapter. So then finally, when we had the lockdown, he ended up putting everything together and published it as a book.
Wait, I have a question for Hamza, in fact. Hamza, just one, So I just, since we're all here because of Hamza, just wanted him to summarize his journey, 3-4 years now.
Yeah, about 4 years.
And so how have you seen it, how did it happen, and where do you see it going? How you watch the scene very closely, so how is it changing? What your observations broadly?
I every time I talk about how I started or how the journey is going so far, what I'm observing and all of that, I get goosebumps every time. It's very nerve-wracking. But the thing is that as much as everybody shares the passion over here, I may be 1/10 of what you guys have. And this is, with the store, my whole idea was to give something to my younger self, as what I would have wanted when I was growing up. So went through a lot of shit for that, but ultimately, I started small. I started from my living room. I started online. But the dream was to open a comic book store. That happened about 3.5 years later, and when it happened, I was, till date, it's completely overwhelming to see the response, see how people take it. Today alone I hear so many great things about the store, but for me, whenever I walk in my store, I see all the negatives. You all see all the positives. It's beautiful color scheme and the products are done nicely, the branding is nice, blah blah blah. But when I walk in, I see all the negatives. I see what can I do better, what can I put here, what can get the most shelf space, what can get the most branding, what can get the most frontage. When I opened, I met Abhi, I met Anand, and now today I've met so many great people. Every day is just filled with opportunities for me. Now I feel like the Indian comic space, the whole idea of having this event was to meet creators, was to meet artists, was to meet like small businesses that we can get onboarded to the store, give them the frontage, the branding, the publicity, and the funds that they so clearly deserve. So that's the whole idea with this fest. Thanks to Manoj, Jude with the Revolver Club, the entire team is amazing. Thanks to everybody who came in here. I feel the Indian comics industry is just starting to get its sort of that recognition that it so clearly deserves. And with guys like you have in front of you, the aspiring artists as well. Everybody here is a bloody brilliant creator, and if there is anything that we as a business or we as a store can come in for, that will be great, because together we can make a huge bloody difference. Thank you so much.
Yay!